Never forget, Democrat mayors sent SWAT teams to shut down churches and barbershops, but let looters and Antifa burn down cities. Now, that seems pretty self evident, pretty self explanatory, pretty fucking obvious to anyone that's paying attention. It's amazing, though, with the fog of propaganda that we'd even have to repeat such a thing. But even if it doesn't need to be repeated, I'm going to encourage the fact that we do. Because otherwise, we get buried in what they'd love you to focus on, which is this group of yahoos at the Capitol and how they've blown that completely out of proportion. One good thing to look at, though, is that the narrative is failing. Even the propaganda machine is failing. People just aren't fucking buying it, despite the best efforts of the nonstop 24/7 propaganda wing for the establishment and the deep state that is the mainstream media. In fact, as Dan Bongino pointed out earlier this week, and this is a fact, you can check it, in a New York Times poll, 84% of registered voters felt that the mainstream media was an existential threat to democracy. Let me say that again. A New York Times poll. We'll get into that a little bit more later. They know that the narrative is failing. It's falling apart right in front of their eyes. In spite of their best efforts to lie about it, it is ultimately falling apart, and the desperation is starting to show. Here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, the homeland, Tina Kotek actually reposted this. Now, this, it's sad enough, is an article from an actual Portland newspaper. Speaking of elections, at this point in time, according to the new independent poll, Republican Christine Drazan has a slight lead over Democratic candidate for governor Tina Kotek. That is a fact, and a very shocking one. If you lived in the Northwest, you would know just how shocking. But it goes on. If this alarms you, it should. Stop with the fucking bullshit, and unless you want abortion to be restricted, the social programs you rely on to go away, and your kids' education to be even worse than it is now, don't be an obstinate dunce. Vote for Tina Kotek. I should point out that this is a three-way race and there's an independent running. We'll get into that more later. But the fact that a candidate tweeted this article, that this article even came from a mainstream news source, and the candidate herself put it on her Twitter feed, should be reflective of some level of desperation. But if that wasn't enough for you, well, you want to go desperate, look no further than Rob Reiner. In 16 days, Americans will decide if we want to remain a constitutional democracy or live under fascism. I have voted for democracy. If you agree, vote blue. There's simply no end to it. When in doubt, threaten them with the specter of fascism, no matter how unevidenced, no matter how unindicted, no matter how prima facie absurd. But it gets even worse. Elon, you guys know how I feel about Elon. But this, even to people who hate Elon, seems perfectly fucking reasonable. A little tweet that he made last week: Ukraine-Russia peace, redo elections of annexed regions under UN supervision. Russia leaves if it is the will of the people. Crimea, formerly part of Russia, as it has been since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake. Water supply to Crimea assured. Ukraine remains neutral. This was a poll that Elon posted, and you can guess how that poll came out in spite of mainstream media. All of this is perfectly reasonable. All of this is historically accurate. But don't think that the administration was going to take that line down. No, in fact, Elon Musk, now he's awake. The Biden administration, the regime, reacted as you would expect they would. They mulled subjecting Elon Musk deals to national security reviews. Now, that's not just him buying Twitter. That would be bad enough in and of itself as a First Amendment concern. No. They're looking into Starlink. They're even looking into Tesla. All because he had the audacity to make his opinion known in an ostensibly free fucking country. This is the smartest man on the planet. This is a person of whom the history books will be speaking for centuries after he's gone, and this regime has the audacity to treat him thusly. But we shouldn't be shocked. I mean, as loosely as they throw around the word fascism, boy, they can ignore it. Some Bible verse about a speck and a log speck in your eye while ignoring the log in my own. Just take a look. I don't need to read this list off for you. You have eyes. You know how to read, and you know good and goddamn well that this list of signs of impending fascism is only wrong in one sense. Fascism would align it strictly with corporate power, and since it's coming from the left, I'm gonna say it has a lot more in common with Chairman Mao than the German with the funny mustache. In any case, either way, we get authoritarianism out of it. And again, they can point out the splinter in somebody else's eye while ignoring the log in their own. Give them bread and circuses. Panem et circum, say the Romans, and they will never revolt. These are the same people. Keep in mind, man, take a good look at this. I'm throwing these quotes out because they are applicable and they are irrefutable. The people who warned us that Trump would destroy the economy, engineer a stock market collapse, and take us one step closer to nuclear holocaust seem completely unbothered by the fact that Biden has already done all of these things and he's not even halfway through his presidency. It's incredible. Right there in front of their faces, and yet it has to be pointed out. Well, you know our man Orwell would have had something to say about that. This was a long, long time ago, but it still remains topical. Why do we always come back to the Orwell quote? Because Orwell is everything. He called this so accurately, so far ahead of everyone else, that it seems the obvious fallback plan to pull out an Orwell quote because it will always apply. It's like pulling out routines that Hicks did in the 80s and realizing that they still apply. Suck Satan's cock. Yeah, you know the drill. In any case, the Orwell quote of the week is, we have now sunk to a depth at which the restatement of the obvious is the first duty of intelligent men. I believe that is true, boys and girls, but I believe that we should not shirk from that duty. Let's go ahead and restate the obvious. They are desperate. We are heading into midterms. We are at the fucking tipping point, and the electorate coming at them like Wyatt Earp out of Tombstone. You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me. That's right, guys. Raise them up high, step to the ballot box, because you know the order. It's the soapbox, the jury box, the ballot box, and when we have nothing left, the cartridge box. The 4 boxes that prop up your freedom and liberty. Unless you're ready to step to number 4, you better be ready to move to number 3 come these fucking midterms, because it may be your goddamn last chance. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. Drumroll, please, and I cannot stress this enough. Certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions and banned from Facebook for now 60 days at a time. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind, and they are guaranteed to choke you with a big, fat dose of turgid, thorny, swollen, bloated truth cock. Open wide, fuckers! We are back. It is time once again for the Sunday sermon. That truth cock gets bigger by the week. I think those pills are kicking into gear, man. Speaking of pills, we're going to get into some of that later. Come in for the drum roll. Didn't have time to clarify that one right off the bat. Let's get the roll call out of the way. We'll do the sponsor shout-outs and get on to all that stuff. A lot of new things going on. Again, a lot of negative things hitting on the international and the national and the political scenes. But, man, we're not doing black pills around here, man. Laughing let us perish. Amid laughter let us face our doom. If we're going to go out, we're going to go out laughing with our heads held high and knuckles up, bitch. Be ready for that. Oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and do the roll call real quick. Brother Joel Allen Jackson, yeah, you saw Judas Priest, you motherfucker. I am insanely jealous. I'm still going to try to hook that up before the end of the tour. I would love to catch him one more time. As Joel so adeptly put it, Rob Halford, gay, old, sober, and still more metal than you will ever be. So, yeah, man, I'd like to take a look at that. Brother Dave McConnell on board. The original Sinner Sister herself, Emmy, on board. Good to see you, sweetheart. Who else we got? Bodie Sands. Hey, what's up, fam? Nice to see you, man. Appreciate you popping in. I believe, yes, of course, the mighty Mr. Wade on board. I knew we were going to see you, man. I see you responding, and Moses, my buddy up in Montana, who's handling my internet thing while I'm indisposed, he was like, yeah, man, fucking Bill Wade's always like the first to comment on that, and I'm like, yeah, dude, cool. Nice to know we got some people who are on board. And again, Brother David McConnell. Some of the usual suspects might not be able to make it. Time frame's a little bit off. I went earlier and hung out with a friend of mine. I'll get more into that and what it represented and why it was necessary for me to do that. So we're running a little bit late on the sermon. I had to kick over into North Idaho. I'm certainly never opposed to any reason to go over into North Idaho. Just a short drive down the road from where I'm at here in the Spoke. Got my battle bottle with my liquid enthusiasm. We are rolling. Brother Aaron, man, good to see you. Glad you made it. Yeah, I did catch that email earlier. That scene at the consumer market that will remain unnamed. Yeah, I'm not really shocked at that. See more of a Yakima, Tri-Cities, Pasco thing than the Spoke, but I can see it, man. It's starting to bleed into all corners, unfortunately, and there's really no way around it. But anyway, yeah, we got enough people on board to roll this down. I'm going to fade the bumper music out. As always, bumper music, band called Red Desert from the smoldering embers and ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Name of the band is Red Desert. Name of the track is Older, No Wiser. And though it has nothing to do with the actual lyrical content of the song, it does fit the vibe. Every week I get a little bit older, and every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. So I'm going to go ahead and fade that out, man. We're going to jump right into this damn thing. Lots of good stuff to cover, man. It's been an eventful kind of week. I'll get into the personal stuff as soon as we get the obligatory things out of the way, and give you some personal updates on some things that I got going on in my life that are improving my state of mind, improving my reflective ability here in the holy season. A couple of you guys had asked, and I wanted to clarify specifically because a couple of you guys had asked why we're doing the hat. Why are we all of a sudden back to the hat? You know what? Fuck it. I'll get into that in a second too. Let's get the sponsor shout-outs out of the way. Of course, we've got Roman and his lovely wife Carrie, and Allie and Roxy, the bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. Check them out. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Beautiful, fucking well done watercolors and testosterone-driven commentary. Yeah, that fucking good, bro. That fucking good. Yeah, so beautiful women, beautiful watercolor work, and testosterone-driven commentary. There's a lot to love over there, so go check out my bro Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends and a flagship sponsor of the program. Check him out at opiumtales.com. And of course, I would be so remiss if I were to forget to mention my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Period. End of statement. Fucking done. There is no argument. I will go to the wall for that. Knuckles up. They are the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest, and I am looking forward to breaking this meatless month with a substantial heaping helping, as they say in Tar Heel country, a heaping helping of the ribs and the thighs and all of the dead smoked animal flesh that will be provided by Casey and Dusty over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue. So happy to have them on board as well. Things are good. Things are very good. A couple of you guys asked about the hat. I'll tell you why. I am in that. Speaking of the seasonal thing, you guys know this is one of my oldest traditions. I go completely without any animal flesh of any sort during the month of October. to purify myself for the shower and the pagan and heathen new year. Again, it's not something that is required of me, but it is just something that I've taken upon myself to do. Some of you guys have asked why the hat has come back, because another part of that I don't generally discuss is I don't shave my head for the entire duration of October either. The hair grows out, and I feel like a weed smoking hippie, one of those little lefty maggots from Portland. And yeah, I let that grow out until the night before the 31st. So on the night of the 30th, we buzz the hair back down all the way to the scalp. And in the morning, as I am showering and cleansing for the ritual and meditation ahead, I will, take the straight razor and buzz it all the way down to the scalp. And I usually look like a fucking Cenobite. Uh, if you've seen any of the pictures that I post on the 31st, my skull at least looks like a fucking Cenobite on that morning. So yeah, there was that. So anyway, some guys had asked, it's like, why are you doing the hat thing again? You got like a scar that you're hiding? I was like, yeah, nothing that you guys weren't already aware of. So, oh, we got that going at least. Just wanted to get that out of the way. And something else on a personal note. You know what? No, that's gonna be a little more drawn out. Let's do the rabbit hole first, because I want to make sure to give this the appropriate focus. Let me go to the StreamYard. Here we go. Onto the production screen. Right. Ryan's rabbit hole. Brother Ryan Jenkins is on board. You've already seen his commentary here. Ryan and I, one of the things that we bonded over early on is that we are both repositories of useless information. And I will have to say, and I don't say this easily, he not only makes me work for it, I would go so far as to say that 6 or 7 times out of 10, he's actually in deeper than I am on the obscure and the esoteric. But again, every week we take things a little outside the box. Sometimes we try to do it to where we take it outside the box of the things that we were already going to discuss for the week, and just kind of throw in a little poke into your bread oven. Some weeks we go philosophical, some weeks we go conspiratorial, some weeks we go esoteric. This week we are going historical, and the historic the historic feline known as Unsinkable Sam. You guys know I am not the biggest fan of cats. Uh, I'm not the biggest fan of felines. But this one, man, you've got to give a grudging respect to. But I'm going to give you the retort to that grudging respect before it is over with. Unsinkable Sam was not originally named Sam, and we're not exactly sure the specific genetics. It wasn't like, a Siamese or a hairless. It was one of these mutt ass fucking cats. But was originally named Oscar, and it has the distinction of being the only feline, the only known feline to have served in both the Kriegsmarine and the Royal Navy during World War II. Unsinkable Sam, that's going to be your search topic. But here is the history of that cat. This cat was originally a German cat, a Nazi infiltrator, as it were, depending on who's making the calls. But this cat was on the fucking Bismarck. Now, if you guys are World War II history aficionados at all, or if you've ever even had a passing listening interest to Dan Carlin and hardcore history, you know the story of the Bismarck. The Bismarck was the flagship of the fucking Kriegsmarine, and ended its career in a very inauspicious way. That's a rabbit hole for another day. But the Bismarck was sunk, and Oscar was taken from the wreckage and given to the crew of the HMS Cossack. Yeah, Cossack. Russians and Germans, I know, fucking synchronicities abound. But Oscar was found in the wreckage of the Bismarck and was given to the crew of the HMS Cossack and served as, the crew mascot on the Cossack. Now, the Cossack had a broad AO, a very broad area of operations that took it from the North Sea all the way into the Mediterranean, just all up around Gibraltar and these other locales. Well, a German U-boat found the Cossack and sunk that motherfucker. Cossack went down very, very quickly, and guess what was found floating among the wreckage? This fucking cat. Yeah, this cat. And it was given after being pulled out of the wreckage. It was given to a Royal Navy destroyer. I'm gonna have to. I want to say the Legionnaire. I want to say the Legionnaire was the name of the destroyer. I could be wrong on that. Fact check me. But yeah, it was given to the Legion. They tried to tow the Cossack. They tried to tow the Cossack back in. It was hit like 160 odd sailors were fucking killed, and this thing wound up on the crew of the this thing wound up on the crew of the Legion, which had tried to tow the Cossack. So this cat, when the Cossack sank, it went into the drink behind the Legion, which sank behind the Cossack. I should point out at this point, for you guys that don't already see where this is going, is that this fucking official ship's mascot has now been on 3 fucking military ships that were sunk under horrendous fucking circumstances. I don't like cats. But it apparently Sam Oscar with a K, that is now named Sam, like a lot of the German scientists had to change their names when they came here under Operation Paperclip. That's a rabbit hole for a different fucking day. Oscar/Sam gets put on the deck of the carrier, the British carrier HMS Ark Royal. One guess what happened to the fucking Ark Royal? Torpedoed, listed over, and fucking sunk. The lesson here, boys and girls, is there are stories behind the stories. There are always stories behind the stories. But behind every story of a cute fucking cat is horrendous pain and destruction for everyone involved. Felines are not to be trusted. Felines are bad luck charms. I don't care if they're black cats, white cats, mixed breed cats, or fucking gender confused cats. If it is a cat, your boat is fucking sinking. And furthermore, cats have no fucking loyalty. That cat was a servant of the Kriegsmarine. Ein Reich, ein Volk, ein Führer. What does the cat not understand about that? But he switched up loyalties in a fucking second as soon as the British fed him, right? Sorry, this wasn't originally where this rabbit hole was going. But I really, really, really don't like cats. And the only thing I like less than cats is things that have no sense of loyalty. Things that have no sense of loyalty. And he swung his loyalties really, really quick from the Kriegsmarine over to the British as soon as they started feeding him. Take this in mind and extrapolate this lesson to any feline you might have living in your house, but keep in mind that weird, bizarre kinship that female humans seem to have with cats. Ladies, I know that if you're listening to this program, you are probably the exception. But as a general rule, that kinship that your gender shares with cats is based on shifting loyalties and idleness. I'm going to sit here and look pretty and demand that you take care of me. Oh. Am I out of line? Let me explain. Let me just throw this out. And again, this wasn't originally where we were headed. All right. But if I were to come to you as a house guest or a roommate and say, look, part of the condition here is I'm going to keep a box of my urine and feces in one of the closets of this house, and periodically I'm going to require you to sift through it, replace the chemical in the bottom of it to try to keep this place not smelling like urine and feces. That's just going to be part of me living here. You would look at me as if I were huffing glue, and yet there you are with your fucking cat. In any case. Sam was an albatross, Ryan. God damn it, Sam was an albatross. He was a four-legged albatross that got hung on it. But I think Ryan's with me on this. We have managed to turn what should have been a happy, feel-good, Hallmark Channel kind of fucking story about a cat and his unbreakable spirit and his tenacity to survive in the face of the worst possible adversity into what it really is. That cat had no fucking loyalty. He never should have sold out the fucking fatherland, and unfortunately a lot of men fucking died for it. Do not trust felines. Do not trust women. Here endeth the lesson. Okay. What is it, Bill Wade? I've lost a lot behind a pussy, but never a ship. Okay, all right, I'm with you on that, brother. I'm with you on that, brother Wade. I am with you on that for fucking because we have all done. There's another lesson. There's another lesson for the rabbit hole. Again, went off in a direction that we didn't expect, but another lesson for the rabbit hole. A lot of men have lost a lot of things, and a lot of men have lost their lives for questionable pussy. So again, we'll just take that and run with it. But the story at the very least is fucking interesting. Unsinkable Sam, that is your rabbit hole for the week. Man, you knew we weren't going to do it in a regular kind of way. You had to have known that going in. It's like, this is Bart and Ryan and they're talking about cats. This can't possibly be going where we think it is. And you were absolutely correct. It was not. So we took it and ran with it. Okay. Before we jump off into matters political, right, Aaron? That does sound oddly familiar, doesn't it? I think we've all been there at one point or another, and it shapes us. It shapes us, and it makes us a lot more jaded and a lot more cynical, but a lot more realistic. Because once somebody has been dragged through that fucking muck, they are very, very reluctant to ever volunteer to get dragged through that muck again. So we can be thankful for that, as we should be for all adversity that comes away over the life. So, on a personal level, you guys know, I have never made any bones about anything when it comes to my synergistic relationship to phenethylamines and psychedelics. I am still not in a frame of mind. It has been years. And when I say years, I'm if I really got into it, I would say probably at the very least 5 years, 4 to 5 years since I have partaken in psychedelics of any kind. As of this week, owing to my mind not being in the greatest of places, I would not say it. I would not. Depending on who's doing the diagnosing, you could say probably, if I were to talk to a counselor who was so inclined, it would probably be considered wrestling with textbook clinical depression, owing to a number of things that you guys are aware of and some things that you're not aware of that are going on in my life. On the recommendation of a dear friend who I will not call out, but he's welcome to out himself, and having done a substantial amount of homework for a long time, you guys know that my psychedelic excursions are the stuff of legend. If I'm taking a gallon, your ass had better take a fucking pint. I am still not at a point in my life, because you know I'm of the Timothy Leary school of psychedelics, that set and setting matters everything. And if you set yourself on that path and you are not in the right mindset at the outset, you're going to be in for a very fucking bad time that is going to shape you in some dark fucking ways. And I know enough about myself and throughout all of these psychedelic excursions to know better than to do that. Having said all of these things, this week I have started something that I had considered for a long time and had not indulged in, and that is microdosing. You guys can do your own homework on this. I am not advocating it for anyone. I am merely passing along what I've been able to glean from it for myself. I will say this: I am what is today? Sunday. I am 6 days in. I just today bumped up from one capsule to two capsules. I had been taking one capsule, one. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Well, it's not like you probably couldn't have guessed. Um, but I just today bumped up to two capsules. I had been taking one right upon waking up, with my morning cocktail of fucking coffee and Broncaid. I had thrown the one capsule in with the morning cocktail. As of just today, I started taking one in the early part of the afternoon, just past noon, like around 1-ish. And what I will say is that there has been a measurable Joel, and thank you for that. I appreciate, and everybody comes out of the woodwork here again. I am not advocating this for anyone, and I was very reluctant to try it myself because, again, when I think in terms of dosages with regard to psychedelics, with my history, I don't think microdose. I think mega dose. I think fucking irresponsible dose. That's just the way that I have always been with this, and I had my doubts as to whether the alkaloids involved at that low of a dosage would provide any effect at all, let alone something that was measurable and perceptible. And what I will say is this: um, it has improved. It has improved my state of mind. I haven't delved into the actual mechanisms of it, why I into the why I feel better. But I can tell you that I do feel a lot better. I don't have the sense of dread getting out of bed every morning. I don't spin myself into circles with all the things that are going on around me. And it has been 100% beneficial to my state of mind. Again, I'm 6 days in, just bumped up to two capsules from one capsule, and uh, I could not realistically tell you exactly what weight we're dealing with regard, and I will tell you that the psychedelic in question is psilocybin. I don't know what the actual gram weight is per capsule, but I figure I'm going to start with one. And again, you guys that know my psychedelic excursions, you know that that never happens. We'll just take a 10 strip and fucking see, and we'll just see where it goes. Um, but I've done this very judiciously, very responsibly, and with much concern and consideration of forethought and much reflection, afterthought. And what I will tell you is that 6 days in, I am in way better spirits than I have been for a long time. Now, we're not talking that it's lifting me out of the hole and putting me on a fucking pedestal or anything like that, but that isn't what this is about. For the longest time, the federal government uh, and the medical establishment, working in tandem as they do vaccines, um, they kept any clinical research from being done on psychedelics. You guys know, I've never bullshit you about my steroid use. I've never bullshit you about my affinity for psychedelics. They have kept, okay, cool. Thank you. Good to know. Per cap, right? All right, good to know. Well, as of today, I have bumped that up to two caps. So half a gram per capsule. So I am up to 1 full gram per day, split into two separate doses, roughly 6 hours apart. For those of you playing along at home, uh, so um, the government blocked the research on that, and you guys know I've always been a firm advocate of psychedelics in huge doses for consciousness expansion. This is this is a corner of the psychedelic consciousness thing that I have only been tangentially familiar with and haven't done a lot of research towards, but I have been aware that a lot of research has been done. And now that the walls are coming down around psychedelic research, not just in Europe, but here in the United States, and that the medical establishment can no longer hold these things back, I figured now is as good a time as any to dip my toe into the pond. And what I will say is that I have dipped my toe into the pond, and 6 days in, the water is warm, it is comfortable, it is flowing slowly, and I'm slowly but surely sliding in for a swim. I am in much better spirits. I think you guys can probably tell a difference in my energy. I can feel a difference in my energy just in day-to-day things. Um, Going from having a profound sense of dread getting out of bed in the morning to ready to jump up and carpe motherfucking diem, uh, it's impressive. It's impressive, and I don't think that I tried to go in without any preconceived notions, but again, owing to my history, I kind of figured, it's a low level dose. I'm not going to feel shit. I was incorrect in that assumption, and it's done wonders. So if you are out there and you're one of my Reverend's Rangers or my Prophets of Doom, my Sinner Sisters out there, and you are going through it, uh, look into it. Look into it. Do your own homework. Again, I'm not your guru on any level. Politically, Timothy Leary, psychedelic high priest, or anything like that. I want for you to do your own homework, but I will tell you from personal experience that if you're asking me, I'll recommend it. And here's an odd little bit of synchronicity: is that earlier this week, I saw someone who has been a dear friend of mine for years. I'm not going to call her out. She is one of the most beautiful women I've ever known in my life, on every level, talking like physically, spiritually, everything. She is also a psychonaut, fellow traveler, and I bounced this off of her when I was about 3 days in. We had dinner the other night. We hadn't seen each other in about 2 years, owing to me, being off on my crane journey and whatnot. And I had dinner with her the other night, and she said that she had gone through a very dark period, and it helped her to make sense of things and process things in her own right, which is just a weird little bit of synchronicity. Um, but yeah, that's where it's at. So again, you guys know me. Even you guys out there who have not met me in real life, you should by this point at least have some idea of the fact that I'm going to let you know what's going on. You won't always like it. You won't always agree with it, but you're not going to have to worry about where do I stand on something. And I'm not going to bullshit you, even when it comes to things that can and probably should be deeply personal. You want to know, ask. And even if you don't even really have to ask. If you just hang out long enough, you're going to know whatever the fuck you need to know about me. For whoever whoever the case agent is, for the FBI who winds up handling my case, they're going to have the easiest gig of their fucking career, because all they're going to have to do is tune in on a Sunday, and they're going to know everything that they need to know. But this is just how I run it, man. Just how I run it, and I'm not going to hold anything back from you guys, good, bad, or indifferent. This is something that something that I'm doing, and it's been beneficial, and I just wanted to share that with you. And so that's it. We're gonna get off the personal stuff here and get into the bullet points and tackle all the other things that I had wanted to cover, but I did definitely want to get into that with you because a lot of people had asked a lot of fucking things. So that's what's put me in a good mood. But that's not all that's put me in a good mood. It's merely assisted. You guys look at the flash and the bullet points about the sweet smell of desperation and hypocrisy. Now, you guys know uh, when it comes to desperation and hypocrisy, nobody does it. Nobody does it like those fine folks over on the far left. We have been told for 4 years that we are fools to even say that elections could be compromised, that we are evil for referring to our political opponents in extreme terms. The hubris and the overconfidence inevitably gets the best of them. And we are looking at a level of desperation going in. You guys know, if you've been paying attention at all, uh, we're heading into the midterms, man. We're like 16 days out now? Just barely over 2 weeks. I want to say, uh, get out, vote. Bongino is all over this, by the way. Dan Bongino is all over this shit. He's like, get out, vote, take 10 people with you. you know, I don't think I would be that comfortable with 10 people at one time, but hey, man, I'm gonna push it. I want, yeah, brother, it has. It's helped fucking tremendously, and I really, really appreciate you giving me that final little. Get over the. Not many people are that close to me, man. You guys know the bond that I share with brother Ryan. I People are generally not that close to me. And he is, and his little, oof, you know, was like the final thing. I was close, not ready, close, not ready, and Ryan's like, hey, and I was, okay, well, fuck it, so here we are. So again, thank you for that. Back to it. Yes, Emmy, checking me. Early voting starts tomorrow in Texas. Here in Washington, um, it is 100% by mail. We don't have a choice. Like literally, we don't have a choice. Well, I won't say that we don't have a choice. Voting not by mail up here is basically the same as voting by mail is somewhere else, in the sense that you really got to jump through some hoops to be able to vote in person. You've got to provide, justification, and everything is super fucking fact checked. Like mail-in ballots were once upon a time prior to 2020. They're losing going into the midterms. If you're fucked, then you know it. Clap your hands. Yeah. Because 2 years of this fucking disastrous regime in charge. And again, don't blame Biden. Biden doesn't know what planet he's on. Blame his handlers. Blame the regime. But it has been an unmitigated disaster for 2 years running. Even the faithful in their private moments admit it. They'll never do it publicly, but they know. They know what it is, and they know how the optics have been presented. They have no issue that they can stand on in any kind of positive light. What are they stressing? The Republicans yes, right. Yes. The only thing that the Dems have to stand on is threats and specters, okay? If you vote Republican, they are going to take your abortion rights away. Not in blue states. No, they're not. If you vote Republican, you are voting for fascism. What the fuck? The same people who barely a month ago, when Biden did his Hitler speech with the red flags and shit back behind him, no, we're not calling all Republicans terrorists. Just a small minority of MAGA Republicans, and we see how long that lasted. It's all that they have to run on is fear, and that fear-based narrative is failing. People just aren't buying it. There's not enough fear in the world. You've got to give them something. You've got to give them something positive to stand on. Even the grazerest of the herd, you've got to give them something. Well, we managed to do this. No. They've got nothing. Well, we managed to bring gas prices down. No. The market did that. The market did that for about a month, and now it's right back up again. Um, Foreign affairs, get fucking bent. We are on the brink of nuclear war over a country that people can't even fucking find. So, foreign policy, I'm going to have to say big fucking fail. The border, disaster. And when I say disaster, I mean record level fucking disaster. Fentanyl, which is subsequent to the border disaster, fucking leading cause of death in a lot of fucking demographics now. That's all coming across the southern border. Can't stand on that one. The economy, record level inflation. And what is their solution? Point the finger, blame Putin, blame gas companies, blame this, blame that. Basic economics 101. Bro, we're not buying it. Even people that went to public school, they aren't fucking buying it. Dems are about to get hammered, and they know it. You want to look at what is reflective of that more than anything else. Just look at the fucking desperation. And we went into some of that in the opener, and I've got my tabs up here. Tina Kotek is run. She was Oregon Secretary of State. Now, I don't expect my Texas people or my guys that are watching from anywhere else to understand the way politics works here in the Northwest. It's a very different fucking beast. You've heard me talk about it at length before. Washington and Oregon are both split states. West of the Cascades is where they have the numbers. That is where the numbers are. That is where the political power is. That is where the lunatic leftism is centered. West of the Cascades. That's in Washington and in Oregon. East of the Cascades, we are red state across the fucking board. Even though the numbers don't reflect that in the general, I can tell you from personal experience that east of the Cascades, Washington and Oregon are both very, very, very blood fucking red. Unfortunately, the lunacy and the numbers reside in Olympia, here in Washington, and of course, the PDX crowd and that fucking lunacy in Oregon. Tina Kotek has been matched very, very closely to. She was Secretary of State of Oregon the entire time that Kate Brown has been governor of Oregon. Now, again, as I said, east of the Cascades, we are very red states over here. But the numbers have never reflected that. Because, again, the population centers are west of the Cascades where the fucking lunatics are. They have held that power. There has never remotely been a challenge to that power in the last 18 to 20 years. You have Jay Inslee as governor of Washington State, who is one of the more egregious examples of abuse of COVID emergency powers in the entire country. I think Gretchen Whitmer probably is the only person who gave him a run for his money with regard to abuse of those COVID emergency powers. Inslee's a fucking tyrant. He is a wannabe tyrant. But that tyranny has been enabled by a political machine here in this beautiful region. This primarily, in terms of landmass, conservative, right? You've got these wide open spaces east of the Cascades, and everyone who lives there across the board, red state conservative. But you've got these clusters of people, leftist lunatics, over in the Seattle area, Seattle, Tacoma, and down into Olympia, and of course in Oregon, in around Portland. It's a three-way race for governor in Portland right now. It's a three-way race. Tina Kotek is Oregon Secretary of State and has served under Governor Kate Brown through all of the lunacy. And again, I'll let you do your own homework on that. Kate Brown is a fucking embarrassment to her species, let alone anything else. You guys have heard of the soft bigotry of low expectations. Let me just give you one Kate Brown highlight. She was going to remove all reading and math requirements as far as like testing levels. She was just going to remove all standards from Oregon schools because a larger percentage of the 7 black people that we have in the entire fucking state of Oregon. I'm exaggerating, but you get the feel. Um, they did worse on standardized tests. So she was going to eliminate it because having standards is a barricade to performance for people of color. Look that up. Dude, I'm not exaggerating. No, it is not hyperbole. Fucking look it up. Dude, don't take my word. Go, look it up yourself. I'll wait. Go ahead. Yeah, a barrier to performance to people of color. So she was going to remove all educational standards. Now here is Tina Kotek. She is the Democratic frontrunner. She is up against a hardcore Republican conservative by the name of Christine Drazan. And there is a spoiler in the mix. Betsy Johnson. I saw these ads. Again, I was over in Oregon for the better part of the past year plus on that work project. And I got a feel for the people. I got a feel for the politics and the way that the spectrum of it all fucking plays out. And I got to see the early campaign ads, did some homework on Johnson and everything. Johnson, I think, is well intentioned as a libertarian, but I also think that she's got the same problems that any third party candidate is going to have. And I'm about to illustrate that. This is the level of desperation at which we have arrived. This is a Tina Kotek tweet. It's a photograph of her standing with Jay Inslee, which, I mean, when Jay Inslee is your fucking wingman, you're already fucked. As far as I'm concerned, I see you standing there with Jay Inslee over your shoulder like, hey, look who I got in my corner. I immediately dismissed. But the tweet is this. Thank you, Governor Jay Inslee, for being on hashtag Team Tina. We both know Betsy Johnson is trailing far behind. See if this sounds familiar, Ron Paul people. See if this sounds familiar. We both know Betsy Johnson is trailing far behind. A vote for her becomes a vote for Christine Drazan and her MAGA Republican agenda. Join us and help stop Oregon from flipping red and moving backwards. That was the tweet 3 hours ago. 3 hours ago. Again, desperation. How dare you vote for a third-party candidate? And this is another thing that Ryan and I have discussed at length. Don't do team sports, man. Don't do team sports. And even though I'm going to encourage you for the purpose of these midterms to vote your conscience, if that takes you to a third-party candidate, let it take you to a third-party candidate. Bart, man, you're missing the big picture. No, dude, I'm not doing team sports. Bongino had a great quote on this. Just because and I'm paraphrasing, just because the Democrats are the source of all of your problems, don't think that the Republicans are going to be the solution to all of your problems. Y'all tracking on that? Anyway, back to Tina Kotek. That was a tweet just 3 hours ago. And again, the desperation. Don't vote for your third party. Definitely don't vote for Drazan because she's a MAGA Republican. But don't vote for Betsy Johnson either. I know I'm tied to Kate Brown and her disastrous fucking record. I know that I am arm in arm with Jay Inslee and his disastrous fucking record. But if you don't vote for us, there'll be fascism. So don't vote for that third party. Fuck your conscience. And again, like we went over in the opener, she actually tweeted this. Let me get that banner out of the way real quick. She actually tweeted this. This was from a legit newspaper in Portland. Speaking of elections, at this point in time, according to new independent poll, Republican Christine Drazan has a slight lead over Democratic candidate for governor Tina Kotek. If this alarms you, it should. Tina Kotek retweeted this. So I want you to imagine the tolerant candidate, the loving candidate, the embracing and inclusion candidate. If this alarms you, it should. Stop with the fucking bullshit, and unless you want abortion to be restricted, the social programs you rely on to go away, and your kids' education to be even worse than it is now, admitting that it's already bad, okay? Admitting that it's bad, and admitting that Kate Brown, who Tina Kotek is directly associated with, is responsible for that, if you want it to be even worse than it is now, don't be an obstinate dunce. Vote for Tina Kotek. In other words, boys and girls, in other words, we fucked up. We know we fucked up. We have no track record to stand on. But the Republicans are fascists. So stop being stupid and get out there and vote like you're told. How fucking insulting is that? How insulting is that? This is the same crew that when the Mango Menace, that when Darth Cheeto basically said to black voters in 2016, look, you've been voting Democrat all these years and they haven't done shit for you. Might as well vote for me. What do you have to lose? That was considered scathingly negative and insulting and everything else. Dude, I thought as a factual statement, it made perfect sense. You guys have hung your hat on Team Blue for so fucking long, and they've taken advantage of you. They haven't done shit for you. Give me a vote. What do you got to lose? Seems like a fair factual statement, and he got excoriated for that in the press. But here's basically Tina Kotek retweeting to Oregon voters, don't be an obstinate dunce. Stop with the fucking bullshit. Now, I should point out, again, these are not her words. These are the words of a legit Portland newspaper. But she retweeted it, so that's her endorsement. Stop with the bullshit. Don't be an obstinate dunce. Vote for me. Vote like you're told. It's really cute that you have a conscience. What does that say to you about Tina Kotek? Especially you guys that don't even live up here and get completely unaware of the politics up here. If you just saw that some candidate somewhere was out there and that was her fucking message, what would that say to you? Outright fucking desperation. Desperate people do scary things. We'll get into that in a bit. But the narrative is crumbling, boys and girls. The narrative is crumbling. Let me see if I can pull this up. New. Okay. Poll media threat to democracy. Bang. Okay, cool. We'll okay, yeah, good. We got that. Got that just before. Okay, so that'll be right before our last bullet point because it brings everything home. That's in Oregon, Tina Kotek. Right here in Washington, it gets even better. Okay. First of all, okay, well, let me get back to, okay, so that's, so KGW has gone as far as to admit that the governor's race could be a toss-up. It's not a toss-up, boys and girls. Drazen has the lead. All she's got to do now is hold it. Even in loony lefty Portland, it's falling apart. And right next door, right here in Washington, there is a Senate race. Patty Murray has held the Senate seat here in Washington for 18 years. Okay? She is being challenged right now. Let me see if I can pull this up. 22 Washington Senate race toss up. Bang, bang, bang. And they are having a debate, and I nearly blew off. I nearly blew off this entire sermon today. The reason why I ran late is I went to see a friend of mine who lives over in North Idaho. He's a close friend of mine. And the final bullet point is pretty much based around our conversation about building communities of like-minded individuals. I nearly blew off this entire sermon because I was going to go to the debate. There was a debate being held at Gonzaga University. Let me see. Gonzaga. Try this. Gonzaga, Washington Senate race. Bank. And here we go. So, oh look, they're broadcasting it live. Okay, yeah, all of the tickets were sold out, but I was going to go. I really, really, really wanted to see that live, and it's right here at Gonzaga University, right here in town. If you guys are basketball fans, college basketball fans, you know about Gonzaga, and probably nobody else. Probably nobody else but college basketball fans knows about Gonzaga University here in Spokane. But they're having the Senate debate over there, and um, Patty Murray's held this position. She is being challenged. Um, Here we go. Bang, bang, bang. Yes. The Republican who is challenging her is a woman by the name of Tiffany Smiley. Uh, the press have done their thing. The mainstream press have done their thing to give Patty Murray her coronation for yet another term. Only problem with that is now she's looking at real opposition, and every poll is saying that Tiffany Smiley is within striking distance of taking her down. What did I say at the outset here? The numbers are all west of the Cascades. That means if every single citizen east of the Cascades voted red, it still should not technically be enough to put Drazen in the governor's seat in Oregon. Definitely should not be enough to put Tiffany Smiley in a Senate seat over Patty Murray. Particularly in Washington, where what else do we know? What did I say at the outset? All voting here is done by mail. In spite having that in their favor, in spite having the numbers in their favor, both of these races are razor thin margins. And I'm going to tell you something, and my Annie, Ann Coulter, went into this earlier. Polls, when they are wrong, historically, there has never been, at least since the Carter-Reagan presidential race in 1980, there has never been a poll that favored Republicans that wound up being in error. Why? Because the polls never favor Republicans. If they are saying that it is within striking distance, it's already over the top. You can do your own homework on the history of that if you doubt me, and I want you to doubt me, and I want you to fact check me on that. This is just in the Northwest, but it is happening everywhere. And people are getting more and more desperate and more frightened about it. The desperation, guys like Reiner, in 18 days, Americans will vote if they want to remain a democracy or resort to fascism, blah, blah, blah. They're getting desperate. But beyond the desperation comes the hypocrisy. What did they tell us in 2020? That Twitter as a platform, and the fact that Twitter specifically censored the New York Post and their Hunter Biden laptop story, kept that from being broadcast on Twitter before the election. And it's now come out that even though 51 dutiful intelligence operatives who said that it was Russian disinformation, where are those 51 now that it's all been verified? Where are those guys? Because that was the basis on which Twitter professed to have suspended the New York Post running that story. Here's the point. We were told that Twitter doesn't have the power to shape elections. We were told that censorship on a platform, even if it did have that kind of reach, is the actions of a private company, and what they choose to do is none of our business. And even if they were doing what you tinfoil hat people are saying they're doing, it wouldn't have any effect on the elections at all. They maintained that until till a certain fellow by the name of Elon. Now here's where the desperation meets the hypocrisy. Once Elon bought it, the same people that insisted that it didn't have that kind of reach, the same people that insisted that it didn't have that kind of stroke, were suddenly panicked that a person might own that platform who disagreed with them. Why? Think of the power and the reach that gives him. Wait a minute. Which is it, Sparky? Can't have it both ways here. Can't have it both ways. So what's it going to be? Either it does have that kind of reach or it doesn't. Well, clearly we know that they're lying. Clearly we know that it did have that kind of reach, and they are fucking terrified that it might have that reach again in an arena over which they have no control. Are you tracking? Do you understand this? The threat that the entity that they insisted had no effect on the election might be in the hands of someone who disagrees with them. Now, it's too late, really, and I say this in all honesty, it's too late for Twitter buying, or for Elon buying Twitter to have any effect on the midterms. It's way too late. And I will say this also for Twitter. Twitter is in full-bore propaganda overdrive. I don't follow Rob Reiner. You're thinking to yourself, why would I pull a Rob Reiner tweet out of my ass? I don't follow Rob Reiner on Twitter. But every day since Monday of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and again this morning, every fucking day this week, Rob Reiner is at the top of my Twitter feed. I don't follow him. Why would he be at the top of my Twitter feed? Because the algorithm has been adjusted that I follow this person who follows this person who follows this other person who follows Rob Reiner. So I must want to see Rob Reiner at the top of my fucking tweet. And there he is. There, this fat, duplicitous, paranoid fucking scumbag is at the top of my goddamn Twitter feed every fucking day. But Twitter's not manipulating anything. No, sir. And even if they were, they couldn't have that much reach, couldn't have that much power. They're aware of how much power it has, and they are terrified of that power not being in their hands. I'm going to play two things for you. Actually, I'm going to run one thing. And again, Elon, he is the gift that keeps on fucking giving when it comes to these people. Assuming the deal doesn't go through, okay? Assuming Elon never wanted it to go through, he has done more to expose the duplicitousness and the hypocrisy of this entire fucking crowd in the past 6 months than volumes of encyclopedias, that hours of podcasts, that weeks worth of documentaries and exposés could have done to expose the hypocrisy, the abject hypocrisy of the left. Elon's done more to expose that in the last 6 months just by offering to buy a fucking company. I'm going to show you this little bite again. This is a poll that he posted to his Twitter feed. Ukraine-Russia peace. Redo elections of annexed regions under UN supervision. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Now, that is a little bit problematic because we all know how the UN is going to react under some shit like that. But again, he's just throwing something out. What you were looking at right here is essentially if Elon Musk were running the free world, if Elon Musk were head of the UN, head of NATO, president of the United States even, this would be his offer to the peace table. Redo elections of the annexed regions. We're talking about Donetsk, Luhansk, right? The four, Kherson, the four regions that were annexed, that they just had the referendums. Redo elections of annexed regions. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Now, Ukraine has sworn that they're going to take Crimea back. That is never going to fucking happen. I promise you. Not in our lifetime are they going to fucking hold Crimea again. But Elon's part of the plan. Crimea formerly part of Russia, as it has been since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake in 1953, by the way. Nikita's gift. Crimea belongs to Russia. End of story. Water supply to Crimea assured. That is something that Ukraine has not only said that they were going to do, but they have taken steps to do to cut off water supply to Crimea. If we can't have it, we'll just fucking make it to where they don't have any water. And finally, Ukraine remains neutral. In other words, Ukraine doesn't join NATO. Now, this is Elon throwing out a poll. This is him saying, okay, if I want peace, if I want an end to this fucking war that is putting the entire fucking world on the brink of nuclear Armageddon, this is how I'm going to go about it. What do you think? Here's the poll. This is a guy who's getting ready to buy Twitter, by the way. Allegedly, depending on the week. What did the regime have to say about that? Immediately they responded, now he's awake. Biden administration mulls subjecting Elon Musk deals to national security reviews. And I'm not just talking about the Twitter deal. While insisting that Twitter doesn't have that kind of stroke, they're terrified of someone who disagrees with them politically having that kind of stroke. Which is it? Are we fools to think that they have that kind of power? Or are we fascists because we feel a certain way and we're about to take that kind of power? Which is it? Remember our boy Orwell? Double think abounds. Holding two diametrically opposed opinions and believing both of them factually correct. It's the very definition of fucking double think. They accuse Elon of being pro-Russian, and then they pulled this old thing out. This is, what was this? This was 2006-ish. This is Elon giving the commencement address to the California Institute of Technology. And this is what he said. And this is resurfaced again this week. And when you hear it, you will know why. Here we go.
So I actually went to Russia 3 times to look at buying a refurbished ICBM. Because that was the best deal. And I can tell you it was very weird going there in late 2001, 2002, going to the Russian rocket forces and saying, I'd like to buy 2 of your biggest rockets, but you can keep the nuke. That's a lot more.
He approached the Russians in 2001 and 2002. Keep in mind, he was trying to get SpaceX off the ground, and he didn't have big government budgets like NASA did. He was looking to have to build those fucking rockets from the ground up. Initially, he looked at buying rockets, and most rocket manufacture was taking place in Mother Russia at the time. Plus, they had a shitload of intercontinental ballistic missiles. If you guys that know anything about nuclear weapons, you know that ICBMs have to go up into fucking space before they dip and fucking deploy their warheads. And he thought, well, here's a way I can get rockets on the fucking cheap. And he approached them. No harm, no foul. 2001, 2002, this happened. This is 20 fucking years ago that he did this. And the soundbite of him speaking about it now is proof that he has Russian sympathies. They hit him with it on Twitter. They hit him with it. He said, yes, I spoke to Putin. Oh, holy shit. Well, there you go. Fucking lock him up. He's a traitor. No, he spoke to Putin once. A year and a half ago. And it was about space-related things. Remember at the outset, he gave Ukraine Starlink. You guys know how I feel about the Ukraine situation, and you know how I feel about Elon. It's one of the few times that I vehemently screamed and raged and thrown stuff going, dude, what the fuck are you thinking? But he is Elon Musk, and I, by extension, am fucking not. But even then, he stuck to his principles. He gave Ukraine Starlink stations. And the first thing that Zelensky, you know, the freedom-loving democracy guy that we're supporting in Ukraine, first thing he wanted to do was be able to censor information. And what did Elon say to that? He said, no, sorry, bit of a stickler for the fucking First Amendment. So even on a move with which I disagreed, he was stuck to his fucking principles. He did. And then somebody with Zelensky's regime, we went into this a little bit last week, told Elon that he needed to fuck off, that he wasn't doing enough. Elon's like, all right, cool. Yeah, you need me to fuck off? Yeah, I'll pull my fucking stations out. I'll cut off your fucking satellite service. That's cool. I don't have to stand here and take this fucking abuse. And what was the reaction of the regime? What was the reaction of the mainstream media? The deep state propaganda wing that supports the fucking regime? That Elon deciding that he wasn't going to sit there and provide shit for free and be abused in the meantime and told that he needed to fuck off because he wasn't doing enough. Under those circumstances, he said, fine, I'll just pull my shit out. That made him a Russian asset. You think I'm exaggerating? This fucking happened. This fucking happened. Wait, I'm not even goddamn making this up. Fiona Hill from Politico. Elon Musk is transmitting a message for Putin. 8 months into Russia's war against Ukraine, Politico talks to the Russia analyst about whether Putin's aims are evolving and what it would take to end the war. She basically said that Elon was a Russian asset. The Twitter bots and the deep state propaganda machine started referring to him as Moscow Musk. Moscow Musk. Fucking children. We are dealing with children. I should point out that in the same article they mentioned that the New York governor's race, again, should be a slam dunk for Democrats. Zeldin is up. Kathy Hochul could be on her way out. She was never elected in the first fucking place. Zeldin's been assaulted twice. Again, this is a brief sidebar, but I just happened to notice this over in the footnote. Lee Zeldin, Republican frontrunner for governor of New York. He's been attacked twice. Guy jumped on stage, tried to stab him, broad fucking daylight, and then an incidental drive-by shooting put several bullet holes in his fucking fence. Unrelated. Wasn't directed at him. Just happened to be in his fence in a residential neighborhood, really upscale residential neighborhood that never sees drive-by shootings, and there just happened to be a drive-by shooting and just happened to put bullet holes in his fence, but again, totally unconnected. He's winning in New York. And Hochul is doing the same thing that Kotek is. You either vote for me or you get fascism. This is desperation. This is hypocrisy. When we are up and our hubris is showing, you are a fool to suggest. You are a fool, you are a conspiracy theorist to even suggest that we're capable of doing the things that you say that we're capable of doing, even though we brag about doing them. Once that script gets flipped, a little bit different, isn't it? This is how they're reacting to Elon. 2 days ago, Yahoo News, U.S. government is considering a national security review, Elon Musk. 3 days ago, Gizmodo, White House worried Elon Musk deals threaten national security. 2 days ago, New York Post, Twitter deals still on track despite security report. 3 days ago, Elon Musk deals may face national security reviews. That was courtesy of CNET. Washington Post decided to go one better. Who owns the Washington Post? Do your own homework. If Musk owning Twitter is a security risk, what about Tesla? So now Twitter and Starlink. Forbes, Musk Twitter deal and Starlink may face national security. This was 3 days ago. What are the headlines today? The London Guardian, White House denies talk of national security review. Bloomberg.com, Twitter tumbles after U.S. weighs security reviews for Musk deals. But the White House is insisting that they are not looking into it. Not looking into it. So you can rest assured that they're definitely fucking looking into it. This is the desperation. And this is the hypocrisy. They have held on to power so fucking long that they could not imagine it being ripped from them. Shades of 2016. What did I tell you was going to happen after 2016? If it came back around to 2020 and he was not reelected by a fucking landslide, what did I tell you was going to happen? These people would exact an unholy vengeance for the American people having the audacity to vote for who they actually wanted instead of the way that they were told. Tina Kotek basically saying as much for the citizens of Oregon. But you can take that, expand it to a fucking national level. Microcosm, macrocosm. Totally makes sense. Does it not? This is their attitude. This is who they are. How dare we, unwashed, unrepentant, wrong thinkers, not see the glory and beneficence of great leader and the regime and jump behind their progressiveness? How dare we engage in our bigotry and our bitter clinging? We could run through 1,000 sound bites, couldn't we? Go been there before. What was it Tom McDonald said in his latest bit? It's just names. It's just names. But the shrieking and the histrionics and the desperation is fucking failing. When all you have is fear, there is only so far you can push people with fear. They found that out the hard way with regard to the pandemic, such as it was. They were able to push it a hell of a lot further than myself and a lot of other people would have previously thought. But when it ran out of steam real fucking quick. What is the percentage of parents of children 5 to 12 who have gotten their kids vaxxed, even though now it's recommended and approved by the CDC and the FDA? What's the percentage? People always knew. But now it's okay to say that we knew. I still lost miles of respect, and you should never forget the people that played along. But let's look at where we're at now. We're not doing black pills around here. Elon is a threat to national security. White House denies that they're looking into it. Do you understand? Beyond the hypocrisy, let's look at where the desperation is getting us. They are looking at something so fucking egregious. This isn't a national security concern. This is a First Amendment concern. For the Twitter deal. But imagine them being able to force Elon Musk to do their bidding with regard to Starlink. Imagine that. He gave it to them on his own free will. They basically spit in his fucking face, and he said, fine, fuck you. If I'm not wanted here, I'll just take my fucking satellites and go home. And the regime's position, this is the same regime, by the way, that is given almost $100 billion in military aid to Ukraine. Let me translate that for you. This same regime that has handed $100 billion to defense contractors to send weapons and equipment to fucking Ukraine. You tracking now? Elon stepped up and said, you know what? I'm going to do this for free because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And they spit in his fucking eye, and you're giving the government the power to say, look, dude, you can't pull it out now. You got to keep doing this for free, or you're un-American. Or you're a threat to national security, and maybe we'll just look into your other businesses too. Tyranny? Fascism? Runaway government power and overreach? Authoritarianism? This is fucking textbook. And yet, don't forget these little memes. And brevity is truth. These are the same people that warned us that Trump would destroy the economy, that the stock market would collapse, and we'd take us one step closer to nuclear holocaust. And all of these things have happened under the regime, not under Joe Biden. He's not making the calls, but the regime. These have all happened, and these people don't care. They are in the minority, and in spite of the nonstop propaganda machine, in spite of power of the press, as a propaganda wing for the deep state, they're failing. Senator, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. Because people have eyes. People have a will of their own. People can see it. But the hypocrisy still knows no bounds, particularly with regard to Ukraine. And again, just to segue into the third bullet point that I wanted to hit here. You guys follow Caitlin Johnstone at all? Let me just spell her name out for you. Caitlin, Caitlin Johnstone, Johnstone. I run hot and cold on Caitlin. Vehemently disagree with her on a lot of ideological points, but on this Ukraine thing, we are simpatico. We are in lock fucking step, because she is the ever so rare little unicorn on the left. That creature of the left who says that war is a bad fucking thing, even when it's a Democratic president that presides over it. Do you remember what that used to be like, guys? Do you? That war was just a bad fucking idea, particularly preemptive war, particularly us sticking our nose in someone else's business and getting it bit and fucking reacting with a preemptive military action. Iraq ring a bell? Particularly Iraq Volume 2. Afghanistan, we at least had legitimate grievances, but we way overstayed our fucking welcome. Wars for empire were a bad fucking idea when it was Bush at the helm. As soon as Obama gets in, we never met a war we didn't like. They spent 4 years telling us that the Mango Menace, that Darth Cheeto was going to drag us into World War III. They spent years, 4 years, telling us that he was going to, and what did he do? First president in my adult life. No new wars, and actually ended 2 of the old ones. But this was the guy that was going to drag us into World War III. I mentioned Caitlin Johnstone earlier because she is worth a follow. You guys know I'm a big fan of Substack and independent media across the board. Give her a follow. Even if it's just checking it out in her blogs once in a while, you're going to find a lot of shit that is going to be like, dude, the Rev actually recommended this bitch, and I feel you on that. Because there's plenty of stuff that she throws out there. I'm just like, hey, what the fuck? Come on. But I found, you know what the benchmark is for me. 2 things: intellectual honesty and ideological consistency. And I find that with Caitlin. Even when I want to throttle the bitch. She's consistent. And her work on this Ukraine thing, and particularly the phenomenon of the anti-war left, all in a flutter over our unjustified wars for empire across the globe anytime a Republican is in the fucking White House. They've all got Ukraine flags in their fucking bio now. They say nothing. Remember AOC? Remember the squad? Where have they been? Where have they been? Ask yourself, like I recommend you always do, ask yourself, if this situation were entirely the same, but the teams in charge were flipped, what would be the reaction? How would it be different? That's how you ascertain honesty. And I promise you, if the Mango Menace, if Darth Cheeto were still in charge right now, and we were exactly where we are, $100 billion in military aid to Ukraine, we have the 101st Airborne in Europe, doing exercises for the first time since the Cold fucking War right up against Ukraine's borders. If Darth Cheeto were doing this, how do you think the news would be reacting? How do you think the deep state's propaganda wing, the mainstream media would be fucking reacting? You know how they'd be reacting. But now, no harm, no foul. And if you have the audacity to point out that maybe nuclear Armageddon is a bad fucking idea, you're just repeating Putin's talking points. You're a stooge for the Kremlin. From the same people who correctly lamented McCarthyism back in the day. And right now, at least one of you wants to jump in and say, yeah, but McCarthy was right. And you're right. You're right. Okay? We need to get off. That's another fucking rabbit hole, as it were. But if you could have gotten this much hate for the Russians out of the left back when it counted, when it was the Soviet communists, shit, man, we could have shaved 20 years off the goddamn Cold War. This isn't about America for them. It's about a political ideology, and you know which one that they fucking subscribe to. Desperation. That's where they're at. We're going to call you a fascist. We're going to destroy you politically. We're going to throw out accusations that no one will ever be able to disprove because no one would ever be able to prove. We're going to, you toe the line, we're going to do what we do. That's where they're at. But with regard to the war, it's particularly fucking dangerous. Don't get too upset about it, because the actual numbers, you really get down to brass tacks, are going to be reflected in the midterms. The actual numbers are being reflected in poll after poll after poll. And again, New York Times poll, this was just from a few days ago. And the way that they spun this, oh my God, the way that they spun this was fucking hilarious. Voters see democracy in peril, but saving it isn't a priority. That was a New York Times headline. Fears over fate of democracy leave many voters frustrated. The ins and outs of America's shrug at the threat to democracy. The threat to democracy is hiding in plain sight. Threat to democracy? Start with corruption, many voters say. These were all New York Times headlines over the course of the past 6 days. And reading into the headline, you would think, well, you would think one thing, clearly. And then you get into the actual brass tacks of the poll that all this stuff was based on. "64% of the people across the board in the poll felt that the media was an existential threat to democracy. And better than 80% of registered voters in the poll felt that media was a threat to democracy. Do you think the New York Times is going to trumpet that as their fucking headline? Holy shit, we took a poll and everybody says we're the assholes. This is how it shakes out, though, so don't get blackpilled behind it. Writing's on the wall. People know. But you do want to keep in mind that desperate people are capable, desperate movements made up of desperate people are capable of very desperate things. Rule nothing out. Particularly with a Department of Justice that is already being weaponized against their political enemies. Over the course of the last week, we saw no less than, over the course of the last couple of weeks, we have seen no less than 3 pro-life demonstrators have their houses raided at gunpoint. Not for any act of violence. DOJ didn't even claim that they had been violent. But for violations of obscure anti-protesting laws. Oh, wait a minute, I thought protest was noble. Oh, no, 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 no. See, they only meant that if you were protesting against the things that they disagreed with. It's as naked as it fucking gets. When I say I am a First Amendment absolutist, I fucking mean that I am a First Amendment absolutist. If any government stepped in to shut down opposition to my way of thinking, they'd have to go head up with me. It is not the state's place to enforce one political ideology or the other if we are, in fact, maintaining the integrity of what this constitutional republic was essentially founded on. We are past that. For all the noise and the bluster of all the horrible things that Trump was going to do that somehow he never fucking got around to, we are there and worse now, and the same people that were complaining about it from the orange motherfucker have nothing to say. Why? Why? You know why? They have nothing to say because their team is in charge. That's why they have nothing to say. Let's see if I can pull this up. Because our friend Ron Paul had some words about that once upon a time. I don't even think that I still hold it here on the desktop, which is sad. So it would have been nice. But it was earlier this week, and he said that's the problem. Everybody goes silent the minute their team is in charge. What I love about guys like Dan Bongino is that he demands that people stay vigilant regardless of that. That he's very, very specific. And again, I'm paraphrasing here because I'm quoting. The guy's on point. Just because the Democrats are the source of all of your fucking problems, do not think that Republicans are going to be the solution. I'm not naive. I see the way I believe these midterms are going to go, the way I desperately hope that they go, and I look at them as a bright spot. I look at them as a sign of a larger tipping point. What could be a larger tipping point, more to the effect. But I will not assume that just because the GOP sweeps both houses of Congress, that is going to necessarily lead to anything. In fact, quite the contrary. I'm not going to get blackpilled on you here, but let's be realistic. I think that rather than doing what they should fucking do, which is impeach Biden, which is impeach Merrick Garland, which is bring the whole list of grievances forward, put them in front of the American people, and treat them with exactly the same amount of consideration that they treated Donald John Trump, to wit, fucking zero. We're in a fight. We're in charge now. You suck it. That's what should happen. But realistically, I don't think that'll happen. I think you'll get guys like Mitch McConnell. I think you'll get guys like fucking South Carolina twerp. It'll just be like, no, we're going to take the high ground. And we wind up in the same fucking position going into 2024. I think the momentum is on our side. I feel like nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. And again, the Orwell quote from earlier. We have now sunk to a depth at which the restatement of the obvious is the first duty of intelligent men. Well, yeah, there are a lot of us intelligent men out there that are having to step up and restate the fucking obvious, but you know what? The momentum is on our side. It takes some serious hashtag intellectual gymnastics to be able to convince yourself of this convoluted, completely illogical nonsense that these people hang their fucking hats on and thump their chests about. These people are children, petulant, misinformed, misdirected, uneducated, functionally illiterate fucking children. Many of whom are emotionally and mentally disturbed on top of that, diagnosed or not. It is incumbent upon us to state the obvious, to restate the obvious as a factual truth. And that message is getting out. And we are restating the obvious. And suddenly, because people, you've heard me say it a million times, fundamentally people are suckers for the truth. Truth is best illustrated in brevity. Simple concepts. Don't twist things up. Don't overcomplicate it. 1 + 1 = 2. Or, my man George Orwell said, freedom is the liberty to say that 2 + 2 = 4. And that'd be the end of it. We're doing that. We're doing that. And in about a little over 2 weeks, we are going to see exactly where we are with the results of that. No matter how it goes, we need to take the lessons that we learned. We need to stay on message. We need to stay on point. We need to stay on focus. And we need to stay with our heads fucking high. Because we're right. We're fucking right. We're dealing with petulant children and lunatics. They're going to call us every fucking thing in the world. Racist, bigot, Islamophobe, homophobe, xenophobe. Pick your phobe. Nazis, fascists. All of these things are code words for I disagree with you. No, all these things are code words for how dare you have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to disagree with me. How fucking dare you? Don't you understand that we are the new priesthood, that we are the new orthodoxy, and for you to stand there as if your opinion held a candle to us and our doctrine and our gospel makes you an apostate and a heretic? And we will crucify you for your temerity. Sound like I'm being hyperbolic? I'm not. It's exactly where they're at. Every single one of these people, no matter how docile they may appear on the outside, with their silly, with their stupid ass fucking colored hair, and their fucking, honker goddamn hipster glasses, and their, smash capitalism sticker on their brand new iBook, and their coexist sticker on their Prius. No matter how docile, realistically, they don't present a threat. Because look what gets out of that Prius. Spineless, pencil neck motherfucker, 10 push-ups and a run up a flight of stairs and fucking kill him. No masculine instincts whatsoever, and on any sort of biological level. Any of the biological imperatives for masculinity have completely escaped him. Low testosterone level, soy-based diet, probably doesn't touch meat. To call his sexual performance disappointing would be to do an injustice to the word disappointment. But this is what he's been sold. This is how he's been raised. This is how he's been acculturated, acclimatized, brainwashed, for lack of a better word. Those people are not a threat. But you look what resides inside the minds and the hearts of those people, and ponder that amplified by the power of the state. That little squid boy that gets out from behind the wheel of that Prius, he's not about to step up and punch you. He might. You're a fascist, punch a Nazi, whack! You're not going to feel it. You've been hit harder. You've been hit harder by runaway shopping carts. You're not going to feel it. So physically, no, he does not constitute a threat. But look at what is in his heart and what is in his fucking mind. What's the old adage? We think that they are people with bad ideas. They see us as bad people with ideas. Bongino's fond of quoting that. And he's right. He's spot the fuck on. In their heart and in their mind lies a hostility, a ferocity, and a homicidal urge, the likes of which you can barely comprehend. In their fantasy world, they are setting you on fire. In their fantasy world, they are torturing your family in front of you. If they had it in them, on a personal level, a strength and a power to back up that deep-seated rage, they would see every single one of us, without exception, incarcerated, tortured, and killed. Off to the gulag or off to the death camp. They would do it. Do not have any fucking illusions about these people. Thankfully, by themselves, they're harmless. But when that homicidal urge is backed by the power of a state, we are in some dangerous territory. That's exactly where we reside right now. The Merrick Garland Justice Department. They spent more resources studying angry parents at school board meetings as domestic terrorists than they did on people who were demonstrating outside Supreme Court Justice's house in an attempt to sway their opinion on a particular Supreme Court ruling. One of those is a federal crime. Guess which? Being angry at a school board meeting is not a federal crime. So what did the DOJ put their resources on? Not one single prosecution of the people who were using bullhorns outside of fucking Kavanaugh's house, even though one of them got onto his property and made an attempt on his life. You guys can justify that too. And they will. But in their heart, that renegade leftist authoritarian state needs the weakness and complicity of those little spineless maggots as much as those maggots need the power of that state to carry through their bankrupt policies and the fucking hatred that is put upon them. You tracking me on this? My girl Patty Chin, you've seen her on my personal feed, you've seen her on my fan page. My favorite, Patty, always my favorite. She posted something earlier that it's not surprising, and I can't remember who was responsible for the soundbite. I just remember Patty posted it. You can find it. That it's no surprise that a lot of these people who are woke now were hardcore bigots earlier in their background. They didn't come to a political awakening. It's not an epiphany that they had. Back in the day, being a bigot and a bully, that was the most effective way of jumping in and controlling people and abusing them. Now, performative anti-bigotry is the way to do that. These are hateful, damaged individuals. Don't ever, ever hold any illusions about that. Okay? Just so we're straight. They need the power of that state to back up their bankrupt ideology, just the way that that authoritarian state needs fear and weakness and complicity. Who else is going to be who else are going to be the snitches for the Stasi? If you have any soul, any spine, any balls, you're not going to do that. They need you weak. Who's going to sell out their neighbors? Who's going to be, who's going to man the gates at the gulags? These are damaged people, and they are desperate. Desperate people do desperate shit. So what I'm going to recommend for us going forward, regardless of how these midterms turn out, and again, I have the highest of hopes for these midterms. I'm very, very optimistic. I'm very, very positive about it. Regardless of how it goes, we need to stick with building a community of like-minded individuals. When I say like-minded individuals, I'm not talking about going out, with the fucking Boogaloo boys and the fucking Hawaiian shirt militia nut jobs. I'm talking about realistic assessments of what could be coming your way. Community gardens, community self-defense. We've got a rough time coming, regardless of how the midterms go, regardless of how 2024 goes. We had a tough time coming. We're not going to dig out of this hole overnight, and this hole could actually get deeper. It is incumbent upon us now to start looking at people who are like minds and kindred spirits, and to start excising from our lives people who are not. Those friends on the periphery that really aren't bringing anything to your life anymore, that it was cool to have back before things went south, they are a luxury that you can no longer afford. Pull back. Devote more resources into the ones who are lifting you up, but more to the point, ones who will legit be there, shoulder to shoulder with you, come what may. Tilling your garden, watching your house when you have to be away, looking out for your family the way that you would look out for theirs because they understand family. Your goofy half-ass friends, it's fine to maintain a social presence on fucking Facebook or whatever, but remember in the final analysis who and how these people really are. They bring nothing to your fucking life. They are not elevating you. If anything, they're going to be the ones that tear you down. You know, my little stalker right now. This little prick never struck a lick in his life. In spite of a skill set, that any blue-collar human being would be envious of. Absolute brilliant at electronic engineering and mechanical engineering and any number of other things. Never struck a lick in his life. And all he exists to do is to tear down the work of other people. He's not alone. He is the rule. Make sure that the people you choose to cleave to going into this final stretch are the exceptions. Find those exceptional people. Get those skill sets up and running. Find somebody who knows how to run a fucking ham radio, for fuck's sake. Again, this whole final bullet point is coming from my meeting earlier with a dear friend of mine. Has been my friend since 2013. And we're coming up on 10 years. I met him through my volunteer work at the LDS Bishop Storehouse. I volunteered there for 2 years over the holiday season, helping out Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. I met him through my volunteer work over there, and he has remained a friend of mine to this day. And seeing him today, it's been 2 years, man. I've been on this side quest to improve my own lot in life. But seeing him and the conversation that we had was a reminder to me the importance of real friends. I got any 30 people that I interact with on social media on a day-to-day basis. I see my friend once in 2 years, but he is the one that I know that I can count on. Know the people with whom you are surrounded. Know their character. Break no bread with weakness. Make no peace with treachery. Close that circle. Get it nice and tight. So on the day when it counts, you'll be totally focused with a group of kindred spirits and like-minded individuals. And it'll be 8 sets of knuckles. going headlong into the fray. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here. As always, man, just this is my therapy. I'm gonna pass that. I'm gonna pass that digital collection plate around like I always do. If anything that I said had any effect on you, if it changed your ideas, change your worldview or anything, you want to throw me a little bit of coin, that'd be great. I'm on PayPal, I'm on Cash App, I'm on Venmo, I'm on fucking Zelle, everything. Facebook Pay, even though I'm suspended from Facebook. If you guys want to throw me a little something, that would be fantastic. If you can't, I get it. It's a Biden economy, boys and girls. I am not unrealistic about these things. Finally got the soundbite downloaded. We're going to have our outro music back again. Been a while since we did Fortunate Son on the way out. Ryan, that is just for you, brother. Can't throw me a little coin. I'll tell you what you can do for me. You can spread that gospel. You've got your own social media platform, your own social media presence, your own social media following, and you really believe in what we're doing here and the stuff that we're saying, well, pass it along, man. Let the people know. Hey, the fucking fat, toothless cripple, crane operator with some opinions. He gets on a rants and raves for a couple hours every Sunday. He's entertaining, he's enlightening, he's offensive in no particular order because that's how he likes it. Maybe you'll dig the show. Pass it along to them, man. Post it up on your page. Run up the flagpole and see who fucking salutes, man. That's all we can do, right? Just got out there to spread that gospel. For all my sinner sisters, for all my reverends, rangers, my prophets of doom out there, my friends out there, remember to live by the directives. That's something you can do for me that you're also doing for yourself. You know the directives, guys. Try to live by it. Try to bury you with the noise, man. Signal to noise ratio is always fucked up in this day and age, man. You have got to be that signal that punches through the noise. They'll try to bury you with the darkness. They'll try to demoralize and dehumanize you with the darkness. You've got to be the light that breaks through the darkness. And they want to see you on your knees. They want to see you bending the knee, genuflecting and weak. You've got to be that strength. That strength in a world full of weakness. Because without that strength, you can't be the signal. You can't be the light. So be that strength in a world full of weakness. Live by the directives. I appreciate you being here, man. Love each and every one of you. We'll see you next Sunday. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. We're out. Thanks, guys. I love you, man. I mean it. Get in touch. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace.